Good morning, Service Lines community. How y'all doing today? Alongside me, the roofing hippie, Mike Lowe. What's
What's
up,
going on,
buddy?
guys? Morning.
So Mikey works with me over at 3JM. He actually has a history in appliances. I'm gonna let him tell you about that, but he is connected to us. Oddly enough, you tell the story. You
Yep.
tell us where your background is, baby.
Yeah, so in high school, I was looking for a job, and I worked as a shipper for a appliance replacement parts company, Union Electronics Distributors out of Beecher. And I did that for a little bit during high school. And I went to school for a little bit and I got out, and I'd always been pretty passionate about sales, worked in sales for a long time. And I actually reconnected with them, and I did inside sales for quite some time. Working with appliance dealers and repair people as well. And yeah, it was a full cycle journey there. Met a lot of good people there. Really cool industry. You really see a lot of different side of things on the inside as opposed to the outside. You kind of understand, how to find out people's desires because people run their businesses differently. And just like the conversation we are having before, especially in the appliance industry, everybody wants their their repair done as soon as possible because it's probably hindering their life, whether it's their washer, their dryer, their fridge, or their stove, or whatever, stopping them from doing their daily activities. So yeah, you guys are under a lot of pressure, and I've experienced that from the inside. So yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. It was funny. I after we partnered up with Union for the Service Alliance Group. I got connected with Alex, and you're like, "How the heck do you know Alex?" I'm like, "Well, like he's our contact for Union, right?" And you're like, "I grew up with this guy. Like I
Yeah,
worked with
Big
this
L. Yeah,
dude."
Big L, man. Yeah. L, and yeah, and like we were talking about last week, Eve was your first person that you dealt with, and knew her, and just kind of came full cycle. Really came full cycle on it. It was cool. It was cool, man.
Yeah, it was weird. We were destined to connect in the future because those paths had crossed far too many times
Yeah,
prior.
right.
Yeah. But today we're going to talk some sales. The theme this week is kind of upselling, and that was one of the things for you and I this year that really helped us kind of find our stride. And so, coming from the appliance perspective, there's a lot of things that guys can do to kind of further that service call, provide more value than they're paid for, and be paid well to do it. Right. So when you look at sales, Mikey, when you're looking at it just from like an overarching view, like what is your key to success? What is that thing that pushes you in sales? Like what has been that foundation?
Um, I think it's a sense of confidence mixed with humility. And I say that because a lot of salespeople, I think, are for a lack of better words, full of themselves, where they think they know their client's solution before they've even walked in the door.
Yeah.
And that necessarily isn't the case. What really drives me, of course, we're in industries where we're not the only person who does what we do, right? There's often plenty of other people, and there's this much of a difference between service and value from all the different competitors, right? So what I think separates myself and the way I try to sell personally is, while I do sell, and that's important, it's more of a consulting aspect.
Hmm.
So I put myself in the shoes of the client and think, what would I need to hear that would want me to move forward with something? And especially on this week's topic of upgrades, um, quite often, I think a lot of salespeople are focused on talking about all these shiny bells and whistles when it comes to upgrades. And I think when you ask questions and allow the person across from you to speak, you could really take in a lot more information. And in our industry specifically, ventilation is probably my most popular upgrade, and I'm sure it's yours as well.
Yep.
Um, so a lot of times, when you ask people, you could go in there and be like, "Hey, look, your ventilation is bad. This is what needs to be done." But instead, it's more about asking questions and leading them to get to the thought process that you have with that. So for our industry, for example, it's like, "Hey, do you have air coming in your house?" "Oh, well, I have vents on the top." Okay, well, actually, that isn't air that breathes in, that's air that breathes out, right? And across the appliance industry, I'm sure there's a number of ways where, um, whether it's OEM versus aftermarket, or whatever it is that you're trying to provide, where there's a quality difference, there's a service difference, whether it's, you're going to be the person taking that call if something goes wrong in a week from now, that you'll be there to fix it right away. And I think in any industry, um, the one problem with sales is you're often the face. So if something goes wrong, it's Zach's fault or it's Mikey's fault. And that's obviously, as we're aware, companies don't work that way, right? We're giant organizations that have multiple moving parts and multiple beings and multiple things happening. So when you take that into perspective and kind of understand it as a whole, I think it really, really helps you hone in on the sales aspect of it.
Yeah. So if we translate like those upgrades into appliance service or HVAC service, right? You have the ability to provide the filters for them, right? You have the ability to check out another appliance in the house. There's a whole ton of things that and EJ's done a pretty good job of this, where like if he goes in for a service call and that particular appliance isn't a repairable appliance, he'll ask like, is there anything else I can look at while I'm here? Right? No charge. Just, is there anything else that I can look at? Is there anything else you're having a problem with? Or is everything working good? And more often than not, someone will say to him, oh, well, like the dishwasher's on the fritz, or the dryer's been taking a little bit, just a little bit too long to dry, or whatever. And so by asking those questions, actually seeking to know who your client is, you have the chance to serve them better and also add more money
Well,
into.
in your guys' industry, you guys can set up like, yearly inspections or reviews. There's
Yep.
there's so many add-ons. Of course, when you're in sales, you want to be compensated for everything you do, but that just isn't how that really works, at least from my
Yep.
perspective. Often there's a lot of things that are done for little to no money or free because you're not transactional in that regard. You're building a relationship moving forward. So exactly like we're saying
I
below there.
yeah, I love
It's
I
not
love the way
upsell, it's
Saul
adding
says it.
value. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And Saul is actually, he's Marcone down
Oh,
there in
nice.
Miami, Florida. So um yeah, we're adding value to people's lives, right? Whether it's through their appliances, through their roofs, through their HVAC unit, whatever it is, right? We're adding value to people's lives. And if you serve them well, then you will be compensated well, right?
Yeah,
So,
and upgrades specifically. I think a lot of times, coming from the sales perspective to help someone, they're like, there's no way they're going to be able to justify $3,000 for this when this is only $1,000. And I think a good perspective that's helped me shift my mindset is that I'm not selling that 1,000 or 3,000. I'm selling a $2,000 difference, right? And like when you use that perspective related to sales, it helps you a lot more because I think, being the salesperson, sometimes you may be fearful of giving a price or
mm,
presenting a price. And it's not because for you it's different because you see the inside of the kitchen, right? The back of the house, so to speak. But if you were to able to remove yourselves from your feet and your own shoes and your own point of view, which is nearly impossible, obviously you would need to bounce it off of someone else or have like a crazy level of awareness, right? Um, and maybe the things that we are doing when it comes to upgrades or the value that we're adding to us, it may seem like, oh wow, $2,000 is a lot of money, but for the value that you're providing to solve the problem that that person has, could be a wonderful trade-off. You know what I mean? And it's all perspective related, I think, in that regard.
One of my mentors said it this way: um, stop spending other people's money with your own wallet. And what he meant by that is, so often as technicians or as salespeople, right, we get our minds locked on like, well, I wouldn't pay for that. I don't see the value in that. Like, and we don't believe in the sale. We don't believe in the upgrade. We don't believe in the repair, whatever it is, right? Because we're spending it with our own wallets. But if you pause and you ask more questions and you put yourself in that client's shoes and let that client actually, I love how you said it in the beginning. We're consultants. Whenever we're selling, repairing, whatever, we are consultants. And so
I
we
think
are
they have
providing.
heads, and they know that it's going to be a sale, right, or a transaction. So people already have this preconceived idea of what I think I want, and then they might be so laser visioned on that. If you don't unearth what their true desires are and ask them their questions, maybe they don't actually want or need what they thought they did. But then you brought that level of realization to them, and now you're shifting a different conversation, talking about something completely different.
Well, and you let them, you present the facts to them, right? Like you present the options to them. TV show The Good Doctor, right? There's a scene where he goes in and he's talking to the patient and they're like, we need you to choose for us. I can't choose for you. My job is to provide you all the facts, all the options, and help you to decide what's the best
Let you
pathway
make
for
the best
you.
decision for you. I'm going to provide you what I think are all the options available that should fall within your mindset or your framework and go from there. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I like this. So Saul says, also remove free from your vocabulary. Say complimentary. Mrs. Smith, let's do a complimentary checkup on your other appliances and see if they're running properly. Yeah, we're in an industry where if you don't do free inspections, you're just not going to get the client.
Well, that happens
And
for your industry, I'm sure, a lot as well in the
yeah,
service because, a lot of guys are like, hey, I got a minimum house call. I won't show up, but, I could apply that towards the bill. And that, there's a lot of people who take that differently. And I mean, that's a different conversation alone in terms of like trying to establish your value, which
mhm.
I understand because when you're in sales, you often feel like your value is taken advantage of, or you feel like it's not, valued as much as it should be. Um, but yeah, no, that's getting your foot in the door a lot of times is the hardest part. And it depends on where you're at in your business, right? If you're already an established business and people know who you are, then maybe you
Mhm.
don't have to do the things that somebody else who's just getting their foot in the industry to try to make a name for themselves and provide credibility and be that person for their community.
That's a great segue. We're going to talk more about sales today because, well, Mikey and I are salespeople. So you're just going to have to suck it up, guys. It's going to be fine. I promise. Um, so getting in the industry versus being established in the industry, let's talk about that this year, right? Because right now you're looking at number one and number two in sales, and I'll let you figure out who is who by the conversation. But number one and number two in sales in our company, one is newer to the business and one is much more experienced in the business, right? And
Absolutely.
so we've actually talked about this a couple times this year. And I think one of the things that made both of us successful is we each had each other pushing each other, right?
It's like having
And
a gym
so,
buddy. When I was, the most physically in shape, I lived at school. I had a buddy Ian who, very, very intelligent and he was very dedicated. When you have somebody holding you accountable, Whether that be, your partner in life or a friend or a mentor or a coach or whoever. We're humans. We all slip, man. I'm part of it. I'm a slipper. So
Yeah. So Mikey took number one this year, but I have been nipping at his heels the entire year. Mikey
phenomenal
has
work,
a
sir. Phenomenal work.
Mikey has a few more years in the industry than me. He's very well established. And a lot of the calls, a lot of the Facebook messages, a lot of the stuff that you got was because you've had such a length in this, right? And so, how do you get established? I think that's so important for our audience to understand is like, how do you get established within the industry? Some of these guys started up in COVID, some of them have only been going for a year. Um, how do
There's a
you
lot of
build?
similarities between our industry and theirs, just because, like, we're, so to speak, roofers are a dime a dozen, right? Same thing
Yeah.
with, there's a lot of appliance repair techs and things like that. Uh, if I were to do it all over again, I would probably do a lot of the similar things that I'm doing now. Obviously, Zach, that we're very involved in BNI and like business
Hmm.
networking groups. I think that's been a huge help in terms of getting your presence. But um, number one, you got to know what you're doing and what you're talking about. You could be extremely confident and you could sell the world out of things and you could do all of those items, but if you don't deliver the promise that you make, that's step one, right? Because that's,
Hmm.
especially for both of our industries, again, very referral based businesses. We're very dependent on, hey, my grandmother needs something, or my friend, you took care of them, can you please help them? Those are very, very, very important things in this industry. So making sure your word has weight, right? That you're
Hmm.
worth something, that you're actually, if you're not great at something, that's okay. Take education, take classes, hone your craft. Because number one, you have to be good at your craft, right? Before
Hmm.
anything else. And then secondly, is just becoming a presence, and most likely your community is going to be the first place for you to start, right? Most people aren't going to just jump into business and bam, $30,000 TV commercial on NBC5, on the 7 o'clock news, right? That's just probably not a realistic approach and standpoint. And especially being in business, price conscious, things that are free or cost you little, but maybe get you exposure, right? Maybe if you know you know somebody who's involved in a school district, or somebody who's involved in a local community group, churches, other areas, really tight network groups, is always a good place to get established, because you'll come to find the really well connected people in those groups. And if you going out of your way just to do something small that costs you very little but means the world to somebody else, those are the best transactions you can do in this life. So if you can find a couple of people along the way to do those kinds of transactions, people talk, man. Facebook groups, we just talked about that. Local Facebook groups, your moms and dads of your local city, or buy and sell of local city. But with that being said, also be respectful. Don't just, again, put yourself in other people's perspectives. If you're slamming the same ad every single day, on the minute, every hour, every single time, people are going to get sick of that. They're going to get bored of that. Be relatable. If you do a Facebook or an online social activity, of course, do socials about the work that you're performing itself. And if you can teach someone something that can help them learn, but make it fun and interesting, right? Like you're the pink hat roofer, right? Like it's fun, it's, talk about, not only your successes, but talk about your struggles, right? One time we did a job last year where the trim was supposed to match the siding of the house, and it didn't. And we sat there, and Diego started filming me up, and we were talking, and and I'm like, oh. And I'm like, how do I fix this, and what do I do? And like, honestly, that's great content, because like who you are and who you show in those moments is people are going to
Hmm.
find out who you are, because everybody can be happy when things are going easy, right? Like, oh, I'm the man when things are going well. But if something goes wrong, or it doesn't go as expected, how do you handle that, and how do you move forward in reassuring confidence in your client, on whatever the issue was. Maybe it was something you did wrong, and taking ownership in that moment. Hey, I thought it was this, but it ended up being this. Or if you actually didn't know and you learned something, like, tell that. I think salespeople often have to feel like uh, we have all the answers, and sometimes we do, right? That it is. But showing humility and showing openness and showing vulnerability, don't cry on your client's shoulders, you know what I mean? But like at the same time, being a real person makes you relatable. And I think being relatable more than anything, helps people want to connect with you. Because especially like you, Zach, you're doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Find somebody who's involved in these different groups, activities. um, Go find a BNI group, or go, I mean, Joliet Chamber of Commerce was a great experience. I've heard people say that they don't have great experiences with chambers of commerce. So like, don't don't come in with a preconceived notion that this is going to work or that this isn't work, because that's sales to begin with. If you thought this wasn't going to work, you wouldn't have hopped into business to try to earn a living when all everything says that basically X amount of percentages of small businesses should fail within the first year. So if you already remove like that logic and rationale from the situation, because you're an illogical being in sales or selling, then you got to hone it and hop in it and kind of go all the way on it.
Yeah, one of the things that we have done with social media, you and I particularly, we get tagged in a lot of the same community posts. Our areas overlap, and we are independent as far as sales goes, but we have fun with those posts, right? Like, hey, listen, if you don't like the long-haired hippie, give the dude in a pink hat and a beard a call, right? And vice versa. We've had some fun with that. Um, but adding value in the communities. Story from over the weekend, I got a gutter inspection I had a client reach out to me, and she said, hey, so my refrigerator is acting up, and I see that you're the person for fridge repair. And I said, hey, I haven't done that in like 3 years. There's a lot of posts in that group that have me tagged up in that, so it's possible you clicked on an old post. Here's who I recommend. I recommend Victor. He's Prime Appliance Service. Fantastic guy. Trust him with any client in the area. You should reach out to him for that. And she goes, oh, I'm so sorry. I said, no, it's not a big deal. I did it for 12 years, right? Like, I was in that Facebook group for 8 years, right? My
They
name
look
is
for you as
all
somebody
over
they
the
can
place.
trust, and that you're an expert. You're their local expert.
And so I connected her with who she needed for appliance repair. And then I said, listen, you ever need roof, gutter, siding, whatever, I'm your guy. But for your appliance repair, go see Victor. Love Victor. Great guy. And ended up, she has a gutter leak issue. So I went out and I checked it out, and I'm putting a bid together for her, getting her set up to have her gutters taken care of. So when Mikey says get connected with people that do all these crazy things, right? Like, do you know a roofer? Do you know someone who's extremely active in these groups? Do you know a plumber? Do you know someone who doesn't do something that you do that can share and connect you with these other clients?
And you can look
I
to be that valuable person for somebody else, right? 100%.
and you establish credibility when you are referring these people that you trust as well. I spend a lot of time referring 3 different appliance companies in the area, depending on, because I know all their service areas, depending on the service area, depends on who I'm tagging. And so,
Well, maybe that makes sense for the people watching, right? Like, if you service Speed Queen and Viking and higher end, but you don't deal with more of the residential lines, right? Like, that's someone that you could link up with, and vice versa, right? Because especially like on that end, there's people who are doing the industrial service level, right? Like, are you working on a commercial scale for like large scale laundromats and kitchens for chefs and for restaurants? And there's so many different ways that you could be that person for someone else. But I think the reason why you got that opportunity to begin with, Zach, is because immediately, as opposed to, hey, I'm in a new industry. Once we reconnected, like, here's how I can help you. Step one was fixing her need and her problem and helping with their issue, because you genuinely wanted to solve their problem first. And then, secondly, well, by the way, because you're already familiar with me and my services, I'd love to help you with any of these other needs that you or your family has. And just,
Mhm.
how you do anything is what's more important than what's said, right? And people can see that, they feel the energy, they don't be a salesperson who has sales breath, right? Like, I always talk about that with Maddie all the time. It's funny because, like, somebody could come in, and you could just tell that they're just here to make a sale. And, like, of course, everybody needs to make a sale to live. But, like, if you remove yourself from, like, that basic rudimentary level of that transaction, and, like, step further above it, people generally are buying. I mean, people love 3JM, as I'm sure they do, but at the end of the day, they love buying from Zach, or they love working with Zach because they know Zach's going to answer this question, or he's going to recommend this product, or he's going to take care of them with the when it comes to the insurance claim thing that we do, right? It could be a number of variables. So whatever you do best, right? Like, I think the problem is, especially, when we were talking about getting established into the business, when I first got in to this industry, um, not really, a little bit of a trades background, father an electrician, things like that, been around tools and such, but you don't really, you're like, man, what do I do? You're sitting here, it's 8 a.m. Monday, your first day, and you're sitting at your computer, like, man, what do I do? And it's like, well, there's a number of variables, right? Like, obviously, you probably are educated in your field before you decided to open a business. If not, please get educated very fast, because it's very tough to be in a business or industry if you're not aware. And you don't have to have all the answers, but know pretty much what you're doing. But then it's lead generation. Our buddy in our mutual group, Ken Porter, he has a phenomenal idea where he goes to all the local liquor stores and different places and leaves a business card. And if anybody calls him and refers that place, he'll go back and drop them $25 off, or whatever the dollar amount is, right? And especially with um in appliance, anything related to appliance, there's so many different places that people are being touched. Maybe it's your
That
local
is
appliance place that doesn't service repairs, but they sell appliances, and that's something
that
that you
is a
can link up with.
that is a great one for everyone that's listening. I want to hit on that Ken Porter thing, because if I was still doing appliance repair, like 1,000% I would do this. So what he
The key.
does is he develops these relationships. He goes in with coffee or gift cards for coffee or whatever to liquor stores and 7-Elevens and, like, just all these places, right? Like, all these different places.
Lots of foot traffic. Yep.
And he says, "Hey, would it be okay if I put this little card display here? On the back, it's got $25 off on service for any of these customers or whatever that come in. And for every customer that says that they got it from here, then I'll give you this referral thing, right? This gift card or whatever every month." And so they let him set it up. He has like 200, 300 locations in the area where people are walking through the door, and it's Ace Handyman service, right? So,
So think
like,
about how many people see something in their house that they didn't want to fix or mess around with, or you know what, man, it's finally time to get that trim done, or we need to do that. But just being constantly in people's eyes and faces, again, growing your presence, asserting yourself as, oh, they're letting them put their card in the store, they must know what they're doing, right? Even if
mhm.
you didn't, you've almost established another form of credibility, because this person's willing to put their card in your store, or your store, right? It's like, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's that is such a great way to gain a presence. And then, the other thing that you said, however you do anything is how you do everything, right? Like, how you do that one thing is how you do everything. And so, coming into a new industry or trying to grow a different wing of your business, whatever the case is, right? Like, if you're not doing sealed systems right now, or you're not doing dryer vent cleaning, go absorb yourself in that side of the industry and just gain as much knowledge as you possibly can. One of the things that made me so successful this year coming in is that I absorbed myself in the industry. I picked Mikey's brain. I picked Maddie's brain. I got in all the groups about roofing to learn more about roofing. I would go up with our crews and I would sit and I would go, okay, so why are we cutting the valley this way? Or why are we installing the vent that way? Or why are we doing the skylight this way? Right? Like, why did we do that? So that I could learn more, so that when I have a client ask a question, I can intelligently answer that question. So, if you're wanting to add dry vent cleaning or you're wanting to add sealed systems, go get in one of the groups, get absorbed in that world and understand everything about it, and then go out armed with that knowledge to be able to solve people's problems, right? It's such a great way to do it. And then having someone along your side, whether it's a mastermind or an accountability partner or something, right? Like the days that I'm just like frustrated, defeated, beat up, whatever, Mikey, I'm losing it today, man. Like I don't even know which end is up, and then vice versa, because Mikey and I, we would go back and forth. I would be up and I'd be like just crushing it, rocking it, and Mikey's like, dude, this is just utter dog crap. Like I'm done. I think I'm hanging up the tool belt.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and
that's right. That's right. I'm retiring early, right? Right? Yeah,
we just
exactly.
kept going through those cycles, right? And so we were there to encourage each other. So because business is not easy, sales is not easy, repair is not easy. Like none of this stuff is easy. If it was easy,
Life
everyone
ain't
would do
easy.
it, right? So get around a group of people that can encourage you and can help propel you forward. That's a huge thing. And those same people are also going to be people that, especially if they're local, they're going to help promote you and elevate your business, right? So
Someone, for those listening, that they're a power partner for us in this industry, and maybe not a power partner in the appliance industry, but somebody who's well connected just in front of a bunch of people. Insurance agents, man.
mm,
Insurance agents, always a good person to be connected with. Now, most of the time, they're calling for their roof or like larger scale projects, but still, nonetheless, you never know. They might call their agent up and say, "Hey, look, I'm having these issues with X, Y, and Z." Somebody who's a really well connected person in the community, because they're often, if they're an agent with an office, they're going to these local community events. They're present. Anybody in the schools, like I said, another great community, just because those, help those who help those around them, kind of thing. But yeah, you were touching on
your
accountability.
mechanic, your school teacher, your insurance agent, your local coffee shop owner, right?
Absolutely.
If you get connected with those people and they have cards that they can refer people to your appliance business, to your HVAC business, to whatever it is, it that speaks volumes because
But also
people
actively
trust
listen to
them.
help somebody else out that you're talking to, right? Like, don't,
Mhm,
like, of course, we want to take care of ourselves and be about us, but actively try to help someone out, because
mhm,
they're going to remember that you referred them someone, and it's going to stick in their mind. And it just like, oh man, that guy helped me out. I really want to help them because they went above and beyond to do something to help me.
mhm.
And once it's, we call it giver's gain, right? But like, it really is, what people want to help those who want to help others. It's contagious, it's infectious, right? Same thing with like you said, get a mastermind, get a group of people. And not everybody's going to be a super happy-go-lucky kind of guy, right? Like that nobody's like that all the time, right? Like we were just saying, right? You could be 22 hours out of the day, you got a smile on your face, you're happy as could be. um but it's okay to have those moments where you're like, hey man, this is a lot, right? Because it is. But then, you take it one step at a time, and then you move forward, and it's the next, and it's the next, and it's we're always constantly improving, I would hope, right? In some regard, whether it's the education side of things, it's operations, maybe it's lead funnels, and all these different parts of our business. Ideally, working on it as well as working in it. There's a number of layers, and of course, especially with people like us, we're very self-reliant, right? CEO, janitor, I mean, of course we have staff and crews and people that help us out, but absolutely, if somebody's dishwasher doesn't work at 9 o'clock at night, they're going to call you right away, because you know what I mean. Like, same thing with us, right? If there's a leak or there's something that happens that they're like, hey, this wasn't here, this wasn't like that. You're the face, and own it, man. That's the one thing I'm all about is if you got a crazy looking beard like Zach, own it, right? Or if you look like a hippie, own it. People have fun. Don't take it too seriously. Have a little fun along the way, and it's a little contagious.
Or if you look like Santa Claus. Dr. Dan isn't watching, but he is the resident Santa Claus of appliance repair down there in Tennessee, Alabama area. He definitely owns the big old Santa beard. I love it. But Mikey, it's been a pleasure having you on today. I was glad to have the ability to pick your brain a little bit and have you share a little bit of your knowledge and experience with our community. So thanks for coming on, buddy.
As always, Zach, it is a pleasure. Glad we've crossed paths, brother, and I'm sure we'll be back again.
Speaking of the appliance Santa Claus, Dr. Dan. What's up, brother?
Good. Yeah, hey, man, can't wait to see you in about 23 days. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. All right, guys. If you are not a member, servicealliancegroup.com. That mastermind is coming up December 21st, right before Christmas. I will be leading smart budgeting. A budget for your business, especially going into the new year, is such a critical thing. If you don't have a budget yet, and if you're anything like I was when I was running my appliance repair business, you probably haven't thought about your budget. So let's help you create a budget and be successful in 2025. It is free to all access members. We do them every single month. Servicealliancegroup.com. And with that, we will catch you guys next time on the morning grind. Have a good day, guys.